There are moments in Hollywood that feel impossible to accept. The day the laughter stopped was one of them. On the morning of August 11th, 2014, the world awoke to the unthinkable headline, "Robin Williams is gone." A man whose voice had filled our homes with joy had left in silence. At first, everyone thought it was depression, the quiet sadness of a clown. But months later, inside the cold walls of the Marin County Coroner's Office, doctors uncovered a far more disturbing truth, one that would rewrite everything we thought we knew about the final days of Robin Williams. Robin McLaurin Williams was born on July 21st, 1951, in Chicago, Illinois. His father, Robert Fitzgerald Williams, was a senior executive at the Ford Motor Company. His mother, Lori McLaurin, a radiant former model with an instinct for humor. From the beginning, Robin discovered something powerful. Laughter could bridge every distance. At school, he was the shy boy in the back row who made the teacher laugh until the class forgot about homework. He could transform into anyone, a pirate, a preacher, a machine gun of voices. His earliest idol was Jonathan Winters, an improvisational comedian who decades later would become his friend. When Robin turned 16, the family moved to San Francisco, and there his gift found a stage. He studied political science first, but destiny pulled him elsewhere. Soon, he was accepted into the Juilliard School in New York City, one of the hardest acting programs in the world. Among his classmates was Christopher Reeve, the man who would become Superman and one of Robin's lifelong friends. At Juilliard, teachers said his mind moved faster than anyone they had ever seen. He could improvise entire scenes from thin air. But behind that talent was relentless insecurity, the fear of not being enough. By the mid-1970s, Robin Williams had become a force in San Francisco's underground comedy scene. He didn't tell jokes, he became them. Characters erupted from him as if possessed, accents, movements, chaos, and tenderness all at once. Television executives couldn't look away. In 1978, ABC gave him a sitcom built around his manic brilliance, Mork and Mindy. The alien from Ork landed on Earth and landed directly in America's heart. Within months, the show was reaching 60 million viewers every week. Robin Williams was now one of the most famous comedians in the country, a household name, and Hollywood came calling. He debuted in Popeye in 1980, then in Good Morning Vietnam 7 years later, earning his first Oscar nomination for the role of an irreverent wartime radio host. Then came Dead Poets Society, The Fisher King, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Aladdin, where he voiced the genie and changed animation forever. Finally, in 1997, he won his only Academy Award for Good Will Hunting. Over 6 decades of life and 4 decades of career, his films made more than $5 billion worldwide. But success is rarely the same thing as peace. Fame brought pressure, and pressure brought temptation. In the early 80s, surrounded by the wild energy of Hollywood, Robin began using cocaine and alcohol. He once joked that cocaine was God's way of telling you you're making too much money. But behind the humor was addiction. Fast, consuming, and dangerous. On the night John Belushi died from an overdose in 1982, Robin Williams had been with him just hours earlier. That tragedy, combined with the birth of his son, Zach, 1 year later, pushed Robin to stop cold turkey. He quit drugs, quit alcohol, and dedicated himself to his family. For nearly 20 years, he stayed clean. But in 2003, while filming in the isolation of Alaska, the old voices returned. He relapsed, and soon after checked himself into rehab. He spoke openly about it later, describing addiction as a constant whisper in the back of the mind. Despite the struggle, audiences never noticed. On camera, he was the same whirlwind of joy, the genius of improvisation. Off camera, though, friends saw the switch. The quiet man who sat alone after a standing ovation, eyes heavy, lost in thought. They called it his duality, the man who made everyone laugh except himself. By 2009, new health problems arrived. Doctors diagnosed him with aortic valve disease, a life-threatening heart condition. He underwent open heart surgery, leaving a scar nearly 9 inches long across his chest. The surgery was a success, but the recovery changed him. He often spoke about a new fragility, waking up grateful but exhausted. He also began taking medication for an enlarged prostate, finasteride and silidocin, which caused insomnia and fatigue. He joked about it in interviews, but close friends noticed the difference. Robin Williams, once unstoppable, was slowing down. In November 2013, doctors gave him news he feared more than any bad review: Parkinson's disease. His hands had begun to tremble. Lines he once memorized easily were slipping away. He started taking levodopa and carbidopa, standard treatment to control motor symptoms. He told almost no one. Even his colleagues filming Night at the Museum 3 later said they had no idea he was ill. But something was off. He wasn't just shaking. He was forgetting, freezing mid-sentence, seeing things that weren't there. At times, he confided in his wife, Susan, that he felt something else was happening. He was right. What no doctor realized yet was that a different enemy was spreading inside his brain, one that would erase the man the world adored. By July 2014, Robin checked himself into the Hazelden Addiction Treatment Center in Minnesota. Officially, it was a refresh stay to reinforce his sobriety, but privately, he was battling panic, confusion, and terrifying dreams. When he returned home to California in early August, Susan Williams saw flashes of paranoia. He'd remove expensive watches from their safe, wrap them in a sock, and drive them to a friend's house, convinced they were in danger. He could still smile, still make her laugh, but something in his eyes had changed. A week before his death, his doctor prescribed quetiapine, an antipsychotic used to treat hallucinations and mania, a sign of rapid decline. On the evening of Sunday, August 10th, Robin seemed peaceful. He and Susan had dinner, talked, and laughed softly in the kitchen. Around 10 p.m., she went to bed. He stayed up, restless, fighting insomnia again. At 10:30, he quietly took his iPad and left the room. Before closing the door, he smiled. It was the last time she ever saw him alive. By the next morning, the laughter that had carried through generations was gone, and when investigators entered that house in Tiburon, they would uncover evidence that shocked even the most experienced forensic pathologists. Because what killed Robin Williams wasn't what anyone thought. August 11th, 2014. The laughter was gone, the world was quiet, and inside the sterile halls of the Marin County Coroner's Office, the truth about Robin Williams was finally about to be revealed. The man who had given voice to the genie, the teacher who told us to seize the day, now lay on a cold stainless steel table, a mystery waiting to be solved. And what doctors found inside him would change everything we thought we knew about his death. The forensic pathologist began with the standard external examination. Robin Williams, aged 63, weighed 143 pounds, standing 5 feet 7 inches tall. His body showed no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, and no evidence of drugs or alcohol abuse. They noted 10 shallow cuts on his left wrist, hesitation marks, as pathologists call them, moments of uncertainty before the final act. Beside him, they found a white towel placed carefully between his neck and the leather belt used in the hanging. It wasn't an accident. The towel, investigators concluded, was meant to reduce pain, not as part of any sexual practice. Nearby, a damp washcloth stained faintly with blood. It appeared he had tried to clean himself, a last act of control before surrender. No note, no message, no explanation, only silence and questions. The toxicology screen came back clean. There were no traces of alcohol, no cocaine, no opioids, no marijuana, nothing that could cloud judgment. Instead, doctors found evidence of his ongoing treatment. Mirtazapine, an antidepressant, detected at 40 nanograms per milliliter. Levodopa and carbidopa, both used to control Parkinson's symptoms. Quetiapine, an antipsychotic medication, prescribed 7 days before his death, likely in response to sudden hallucinations and paranoia. His liver showed no sign of alcohol damage. His heart, although enlarged from past cardiac surgery, was in stable condition. Physically, Robin Williams had the body of a man who wanted to live, not one giving up. The true cause, investigators realized, lay deeper than any toxic substance. So they opened his skull. When pathologists examined the brain tissue, they expected to confirm Parkinson's disease. What they found instead stunned them. Under the microscope, they saw widespread Lewy bodies, microscopic protein clumps that destroy neurons, spreading through the brain like a silent fire. This was not Parkinson's, it was Lewy body dementia, one of the most devastating and least understood neurodegenerative diseases known to science. These Lewy bodies were everywhere, in his cerebral cortex, where thought and emotion reside, in his hippocampus, where memory is stored, and deep in the brainstem, controlling movement and sleep. It was, in the words of one neuropathologist, one of the worst cases ever seen. This condition attacks both mind and body, blending the symptoms of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's into something crueler, a storm of hallucinations, confusion, and paranoia. Patients often lose the ability to distinguish dream from reality. They see shadows that aren't there. They become strangers inside their own minds. Robin Williams had been living inside that storm, undiagnosed. Doctors later realized that the Parkinson's diagnosis he received in late 2013 had only captured the surface of the problem. The tremors, the slow speech, the difficulty remembering lines, all of it was just the beginning. Lewy body dementia can mimic Parkinson's in its early stages, but as it progresses, it steals far more than coordination. It takes logic, it takes perception, it replaces reality with fear. In the weeks before his death, those symptoms had intensified. Susan Williams, his wife, later revealed moments that now made sense only in retrospect. The paranoia about his watches, the sleepless nights, the feeling that something was hunting him from the inside. He was losing his mind, she said, and he knew it, but no one knew why. By the time he died, the disease had invaded nearly every region of his brain. Even antidepressants and antipsychotics meant to help could not stop the neurological collapse. 2 months later, the official autopsy report was released. Cause of death, asphyxia by hanging. Contributing factor, severe Lewy body dementia, misdiagnosed as Parkinson's disease. Manner of death, suicide. Substances present, therapeutic levels of prescribed medication only. No evidence of alcohol or illegal drugs. No sign of foul play. But for forensic experts, the conclusion was far deeper. The disease itself, the chemical war in his brain, had been the real executioner. Dr. Richard Shepard, one of the forensic specialists who reviewed the findings, put it simply, Robin Williams didn't die from sadness. He died from a brain disease that destroyed his ability to think clearly. Lewy body dementia is still a mystery to modern medicine. It hides in plain sight, often mistaken for depression, Alzheimer's, or Parkinson's. By the time it's identified, the brain is already beyond repair. In Robin's case, the progression had been rapid, possibly less than 2 years from onset to death. It explained everything: the paranoia, the anxiety, the memory lapses, the trembling, the confusion, even the insomnia that haunted his final nights. His brain had become a maze of misfiring signals, his personality dissolving into static. Yet somehow, even in those final weeks, he kept trying to work. He kept making people laugh. He kept pretending to be okay. That strength, that performance, fooled the world, but it also revealed the cruelty of the disease. It let him know exactly what he was losing. After the report, Susan Williams launched a foundation to raise awareness of Lewy body dementia, determined to prevent others from going through the same confusion and silence. She called the illness the terrorist inside my husband's brain, and for millions who had loved Robin, it reframed everything. He hadn't given up. He had been fighting an invisible war, and the enemy was winning inside his skull. Researchers have since used his case to teach doctors how to recognize LBD earlier, saving lives through understanding what was once misdiagnosed as simple depression. Robin Williams left behind his wife Susan, his children Zach, Zelda, and Cody, and a world still echoing with his laughter. His story is not one of despair, it's one of warning. It reminds us how fragile the human mind can be, even inside the brightest soul. The autopsy didn't just reveal how he died, it explained why. A man whose body was strong, whose heart was kind, but whose mind had been hijacked by biology itself. He wasn't broken, he was ill. And his illness had a name, Lewy body dementia. He once told us, "You're only given a little spark of madness. You mustn't lose it." That spark lit the world for decades, and though the laughter has faded, the light remains. This was the autopsy of Robin Williams, and the story of how a man who healed millions lost the one thing he couldn't live without, his own mind. If this story moved you, share it. Because sometimes the only way to understand a legend is to look at what was hidden beneath the laughter. Subscribe, where every week we uncover the final chapters of extraordinary lives, with truth, respect, and no sensationalism. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next autopsy, and let us know in the comments. What did Robin Williams mean to you? This is Vincent. Thank you for listening. And remember, even in silence, the story continues.